welcome to a very special presentation by the NAACP, Beverly Hills, Hollywood, and the National Association of Black Military Women. I am your host, LaCora Stevens, and it is an honor and privilege to be here. But before we get started, I must say happy Veterans Day, especially to all of my viewers out there that have served. We salute you, and we want to say thank you for your service. Now, for those who don't know, Veterans Day occurs on November 11th every year in the United States in honor of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918 that signaled the end of World War I. So we are here. Why are we here? We're here to honor, celebrate, and tell the stories, as well as bring awareness to the Black men and women in service for all branches. We have a great panel for you and a wonderful guest speaker. Our first panelist is Patricia Jackson-Kelley. Then we have Major Brenda Threatt. And then we move on to Joshua Erwin. And we end it all with our guest of the day, Jewel Diamond Taylor. This is going to be a great treat. So we ask that you share. All right, don't keep all of this goodness to yourself. Make sure you share. Without further ado, let's get started. Our first guest is retired Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Jackson-Kelley. She is a wonderful woman, beautiful woman, a woman of humility, a woman of respect, honesty, guidance, and I am elated that she is here. She's held most of the offices that she's wanted to hold and been respected on all levels. So, everyone, welcome Patricia Jackson-Kelley. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
I am pretty good. You know, this is exciting for me because I do have an uncle who served as a Marine. And so it's always interesting to sit down with our Black men and women of the military and hear their stories. And I know that you have a lot to talk about. You've been doing a lot in the community. You have served for many of years. And let's talk about your background. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I entered the military in 1973. I entered as an enlisted because you had to have a bachelor's degree in nursing in order to become an officer. And I was in school at the time for my bachelor's degree. So once I obtained my bachelor's degree, I attempted to become an officer, and I was in the Navy Reserves at the time. And they told me they did not have any officers' billets at that time. So I attempted to go into the Army, and they lost my paperwork. And I went and I signed up for the Air Force Reserves. And the recruiter said, "Why are you going in the reserves? Why don't you go on active duty?" And so that's when I entered the military on active duty in 1979. And I served for 4 years, and afterwards I went into the reserves, and I served a total of 26 years in the military reserves and active duty time.
Wow. And I know a lot of people have stories. There's always one memorable moment that tells them, you know, this is what makes me proud to be of service and to be in the military. What is that one moment for you? Can you recall anything that just blew your mind or touched your heart so deeply that it said, this is why I decided to serve?
I think one of my most memorable moments was during the time when I was stationed overseas in the Azores or Portugal, and we connected with the military in Portugal. And the idea that we were able to communicate, even though they did not speak any English, was, I think, well, that was one of the most memorable time of my life when I really recognized how blessed we are in our country. When I saw the poverty and the restriction of the country there, I think that was the most memorable time of my military career.
That's something. And a lot of people aren't even aware because, as I mentioned, we're here to bring awareness to the Black men and women that have served. And there's a particular group that a lot of people are not aware of that I would love for you to talk about, called Unit 6888. Could you let us know a little bit about that?
Yes, the 6888 is a group of women who served overseas. They were all black unit, and they were deployed over there to move the mail that has been stagnated for several years. So they gave them a certain amount of time to move the mail, and they moved it in record time. They're currently on, I think 10 of them left. There was 12, but two are recently deceased. And initially, the unit was under the direction of Clara Adams Ender. And if you ever get a chance to Google her bio, you can read it. She's a very impressive lady. And like she was one of my, when I read about her, I just, I was just in awe. So I consider her, even though she's no longer with us, one of my greatest mentors.
Now, I know that you've been fighting and researching of how to make sure that they get rewarded the way that they should be. What traction have you received so far?
Well, at this time, they're still sitting in the Senate, the Congressional Gold Medal that we are trying to get for them. And we need additional senators to sign in for it. So if anyone could, if you could go to your website and um, identify the 6888 and Congressional Gold Medal, and it will tell you the steps that you need to do to assist these women, these 10 women that are left, to receive this recognition that they so well deserve.
Absolutely. And it would be great if we were to see them because you said there are 10 more still surviving. Maybe if we saw them at the NAACP Image Awards one time, being recognized on the stage, I think that that would be great. I'm going to put a word in to the president of the NAACP of all chapters, especially the Beverly Hills Hollywood.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, that would really be nice.
Absolutely. So, I want to talk a little bit about just your words that you want the people out there to know about the military veterans, because there are things that we don't know, things that we think we know. But what words would you like the viewers out there to know about the people that have served, especially our Black men and our Black women?
Well, I think that one of the things that I would like them to know is there's a lot of, I guess, ambivalence about serving in the military. And one of the things that has been identified is that there's racism there. And in spite of the racism that I endured and the problems that I endured, I'm still proud to have served my country. And I think that that's the bottom line when you know that you put your life on the line to serve your country for the freedom that we enjoy. And a lot of people are not even aware of the freedom that we enjoy, that we take it for granted. And I think that we need to be more mindful of what people have died, lost limbs, I mean, giving up everything just for freedom. And I think that a lot of people just do not appreciate it. And I think that we need to be more aware of what is the sacrifice that people make.
Absolutely. And that whole statement made me think of so many things from, comparing possibly military veterans, our Black brothers and sisters, to that of our, brothers in blue and our sisters in blue. If it's the same fight, as you said, you endure the racism within, as do they, our Black men and Black women wearing blue. Right now, it's a tough position to be in. And then it also made me think about, uh, when you say that our brothers and sisters have lost limbs, a lot of them are on the streets. What can we do to help? What are some actionary steps that we could take to say, you know what? I actually want to be a part of this. I want to do my part. I want to help out some way, some fashion, some form. What does that look like?
I think that awareness is key. You need to be mindful of things by being more engaged, reading about the situation. You know, when you see these homeless people on the street, what can you do? How can you provide meals for them? How can you provide clothing for them? The VA has set up a camp where they are begging people for blankets, tents for people to use, the containers for them to put their clothing in or whatever they have. You know, I used to work at the VA hospital, and I worked for the women's program. The women would come into the program. The only thing that they owned was what they had on their back. And that has not changed very much. They still have a program at the VA where the women come in with what they have on their back. That's the only thing that they own. So I make an effort to clean out my closet periodically, and I take the clothing up to the VA hospital. I take hygiene items up to them. You know, I donate to the voluntary services so that our veterans can have some of the items that they so sorely need.
You know what, Patricia Jackson-Kelley, you are a beautiful, beautiful woman. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your service. We love everything about you, what you're doing for our brothers and sisters. We appreciate your service. Thank you so much. And thank you for being on this program. Before I let you go, any last words to the people?
Yes, I just want you to know that being a veteran is the most significant part of my life. And as I reach out to the veterans, I want you to know that the women's veteran are the least served veterans. Please help us to help them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. That was retired Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Jackson-Kelley. We have more for you. Up next, we have Major Brenda Threatt. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
They were known as the 6888, more than 800 African American women marching through Birmingham in 1945. Their mission, to sort out a mountain of mail piling up for the frontline troops.
It was very, very important. Very important. And sometimes we would have groups of women working all night long.
Elizabeth Barker Johnson is 98 years old. In 1945, she was 25 and working in temporary barracks at the King Edward School, Edgbaston.
And separating the mail, I picked up a package. Everything fell out on the floor. When I picked up that watch, I looked at the back of it. It had the man's name, his number, and everything on it. And it just made me feel so good because I could forward it to him.
The battalion was led by Charity Adams, the highest-ranking African-American woman in the U.S. Army. She faced segregation and prejudice for being female and a black woman. Lieutenant Colonel Charity Adams may have been admired and respected while stationed here in Birmingham, but she was no stranger to racism. Once, while on leave in South Carolina, she had to face down the Ku Klux Klan while armed with a shotgun.
In England, they saw us in uniform. They knew we were from the United States. Some of them would bow their heads, I guess that was the way they spoke to us. Some would pass by, wouldn't have anything to say. But actually, when I was in England and France, I was treated better there than I was in the United States.
Nearly all these women had never left the United States before the war. They might not have fought battles against the enemy, but they overcame racism and sexism long before those issues became popular causes.
And welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Now, as promised, our next guest, she is Major Brenda Threatt. What a name, right? She is a member of the California Army National Guard and the Assistant Director of the Veteran Services of El Camino College. Everyone, please welcome this honorable guest that I have the privilege to talk with. Hello, Major Brenda Threatt. How are you?
Good morning, and thank you for having me on your program.
Of course, we are honored that you are here as we recognize and celebrate our Black women and men in the service. So we see you, you're dressed, you look wonderful. This is the everyday for you?
No, we're on a training exercise this week, so I'm on duty.
On duty. Well, talk to us about why it was important for you to give us your yes on this platform.
I am a chaplain with the California State Guard, and my impetus for serving was part of meeting some very extraordinary men, and they have a story that most people don't know about. And that organization is the Montford Point Marines. They were the first African Americans that were allowed in the Marine Corps. And my presentation today is going to be about them. I am an honorary member, even though I'm Army and they're Marines, but they will embrace anyone who is willing to support them and to expand their story. Their story is remarkable, and those of us in uniform have stood on the soldiers of the Tuskegee Airmen, the Buffalo Soldiers, and the Montford Point Marines. And I have been on a mission to let everybody know who they are and the extraordinary story they have to tell.
I know that everyone wants to hear about their stories. Some may be new to it, some may not. But before we get into that, everyone has a story. Everyone has a memorable moment that they say, this is the very reason why I decided to serve. Brenda, what's your story? What is that one memorable moment that you could always reflect on and say, this is why I'm proud, this is why I served?
I think the impetus for me was 9/11. And I think for all of us, we had, this very compelling emotion when our country was attacked. And I was actually too old to join active duty military. I wanted to do something. And so what I did was I thought, what do I know? What can I do? I used to work for the Department of Motor Vehicle years ago. So I drew a license plate that could be a plate dedicated to the memory of those who perished in 9/11. Sent the plate to then Speaker of the House, Herb Wesson, who took it to the governor. And the state of California adopted my plate, and it has earned about $10 million in funds for anti-terrorism in California. And I got a plate, it's on my car that says my idea, which was awarded to me by the governor. Pursuant to that, I got more involved in the military, and because I'm an ordained minister, during 2010, 2011, we had a lot of casualties that were happening over in Afghanistan, and the California State Guard needed chaplains. And the chaplain corps is kind of like one of the more, I wouldn't say difficult, but there's more barriers to get into being a military chaplain because you have to have degrees and you have to have seminary training and you have to have ordained ministry and you have to have an endorsement by a denomination that the Army certifies. So I was able to get through all those hoops and became a chaplain and been able to serve in the capacity, never had combat, but my job are casualty notifications and helping soldiers to navigate emotional waters and doing military services and suicide intervention and all that. And it's a ministry for me.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people feel that faith is important on their journey as a military vet, soldier, whether you are within it or outside of it, whether you have experienced it, faith is important. I know it's very important for me. So how important is it for you, or how has it played a role currently as you help other people on their journey?
Well, I absolutely don't believe that anything we do of our own, that we really are powerless. And I feel that without faith, we could do nothing. And the Bible says faith of a mustard seed can move mountains. So my journey of faith, even being here, this isn't me, the Montford Point Marines, the Tuskegee Airmen, the Buffalo Soldiers, Colonel Kelly, who is on this call, all of the people that have paved the way to help us to, be who we are, all of us to achieve whatever it is that we have done in our lives, even getting up in the morning. We get up and we are in a country that people have fought and died that we are free. As Black people, people have fought and died and sacrificed their lives so that we could be here today. And so I believe that my next breath can't come without faith.
Wow. All right. Our honorary member of the Marines, Major Brenda Threatt, I'm going to have you display your presentation. Everyone, she's put together a nice presentation for you all. So let's go ahead and enjoy.
The Marines, the African-American Marines were not allowed to train at Camp Lejeune with the white Marines. And when they went to Montford Point, they had to build their own barracks, their own outhouses. They were given all of the worst equipment. We know the story over and over again. And I just wanted to add at the end where you saw First Sergeant Jack McDowell, who received the Congressional Gold Medal on behalf of everyone and made a comment. He is local. And First Sergeant Jack McDowell served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. He has one leg and one lung, and he just celebrated his 92nd birthday. Wow. And he tells everybody, if I can endure that, you can endure anything.
Wow, that is amazing. These are the people that we sit on their shoulders, and sometimes we don't realize it, we don't even know the history. So I'm so thankful that you came to let us know about this history, because I didn't know about this. And I'm going to ask my uncle. He is a proud Marines. And I wonder if he knows about the Montford, Marines. I just never knew this. So very interesting. Before we go, is there anything, Major Brenda Threatt, that you would love to share with the people?
I would love for everyone to understand that Veterans Day is like the one day of the year that those of us who have worn this uniform and wear this uniform, that people stop and say, thank you for your service, or that we are recognized. I want people to keep it in their hearts every day that men and women, especially men and women as the Montford Point Marines, that have sacrificed not just for our country, but for our people. Yes. And that we are blessed and prosperous, and our children have a future because of them. And it's every day that they should be celebrated and thanked, not just on November 11th.
Well said. You guys heard that. We need to make sure that we appreciate them and we thank them for their service, not just on November 11th, but every day. Make this an assiduous part of your life. I just want to thank you. I am so privileged to speak with you. Thank you for your time. I know you have your training today, but that was remarkable to know about the Montford Point Marines. I would definitely look into them. We are learning so much today. We learned about 6888, our Black women. Now we're learning about the Montford Point Marines. There is so much more to come. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
When African Americans applied for jobs in the nation's defense industry during the Second World War, they were met with discrimination and hostility. After a September 1940 meeting with President Roosevelt, civil rights leaders threatened to march on Washington. In response, Roosevelt issued Executive Order 8802, effectively banning discrimination in all federal agencies. As it was in civilian life in the 40s, segregation was a reality for America's first Black Marines because blacks and whites were not allowed to train together. Montford Point, a camp built exclusively for Black recruits, was a stone throw and yet a world away from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Even as Marines, Black men were barred from Lejeune unless accompanied by a white officer. Recruitment of the nation's first Black Marines was set to begin June 1st, 1942. At 1 minute after midnight on that date, Alfred Masters, a Langston University student, became the first African American to enlist and be sworn into the United States Marine Corps. On Iwo Jima, they were assigned to service and supply. But when the Japanese attacked, African American Marines dropped their cargo, picked up their weapons, and joined the fight. Despite 2 amphibious trucks disabled from gunfire, a Black Marine driver kept coming back to the cheers of soldiers from their foxholes. A fellow Marine called it one of the bravest sights he had ever seen. And Congresswoman Corrine Brown from Florida sponsored a bill to award the Congressional Gold Medal to the Montford Point Marines. It passed unanimously in the House and Senate. On November 23, 2011, President Barack Obama signed the bill into law. Semper Fi, the men proclaimed as they spoke of their struggles and their gratitude. The highest civilian honor in the land is well deserved for their historic service. August 26 has been designated by Congress as Montford Point Marine Day in honor of that day in 1942 when the first African American Marine recruits reported for basic training.
All right, everyone. I know you really enjoyed that, but guess what? We have our only Black man here on the panel, and I'm so excited. He is a nice brother. He goes by the name of Joshua Erwin. He is a retired aircraft mechanic from American Airlines. He served in the Air Force doing the same thing, aircraft mechanic. And it is my honor and privilege to interview him and talk with him today. Everyone, please welcome Joshua Erwin. Hello, and how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Good. Well, brother, I'm loving the mustache and the beard that you have going on. With the necklace, you're giving me all kind of Black man vibes. I love it. Thank you so much for giving us your yes. Could you talk to us a little bit about your background?
Well, my background, as I say, I learned to work on airplanes as a mechanic in the military. I joined the military for a couple of reasons. I was trying to run away from home, and I was in my first year of college, and it was during the time when President Kennedy got assassinated. So most of us brothers that were in school, we didn't want to get drafted, so we volunteered. So it was a double opportunity for me to get away from home, get off these streets, and just learn something new, go someplace else, and meet some new people, see some new places, which I did. Some of the places I didn't want to see, but, we saw. And when I got out, just went back to school and ended up getting a job or two, getting laid off, going back to school. But all in all, I always ended up going back to being an aircraft mechanic, and that's where I retired.
Well, let's talk about that. There are a lot of people that are in the same position as you. And they may say, I too, wanted to run and get away. I wanted to escape my environment. and I just simply wanted something new. What are your words to the young men or women that may be experiencing the same thing and are looking for an outlet in a way not only to get away and escape, but a means to do something great? What would your advice be for them?
Yes. So the main thing I could say to them at this point is, if by chance you come across any avenue, a positive avenue that will help you change, get out of your environment, or get you closer to where you want to be, just explore it. Go explore it. Whatever you want to do, you can go to school for. You can take a class for. You nowadays you have it in the palm of your hand. But learn something about it and pursue it. Just pursue it. Just go. Don't, let things distract you. Just go for it. It could be one, two, or three things, but just go for them and you'll find what fits you. You know what fits you best once you get into it. So just go for it. Just try. You have to be adventurous sometimes. So that's all I said. But school, getting an education, learning something, a specialty that fits you, that's the best thing you can do. And you can work with that, and that'll take you a lot of places and open other doors for you.
When you were escaping the environment, the streets, you didn't want to be in a rough time area. Did you find yourself with any challenges as a Black man serving in the service?
As far as that went, coming from LA, California, we kind of like every now and then experience that racial thing. Wasn't really just outright face up. But in the military, you'd have, these little, all we knew is them little country boys were the only ones we had to watch out for. But it was so surprising. Some of those little country boys turned out being our best friends. And it was the other ones, the subtle ones that come from the big cities and some of the other cities, that would look at you and wouldn't speak. And you knew where they were coming from. Every now and then they would confront us, but it's like, we were never taught to be afraid, to fear the racism thing. It's going to come because it would come from guys we had to work with, our own enlisted men, as well sometimes from the officers, or some of our commanders, etc. And you could feel it, but I was always told, look, you stand up to it, man. If they haven't, really caused you super harm or anything, man, they can't beat you down because the best thing you got going for you is your intelligence, your education. Because we were all doing the same thing. And at times, regardless of how we felt towards each other, it comes a time when we both have to depend on each other. Life depends on it. But we were all just doing a job. So the racism thing, it's like, yeah, every now and then somebody would challenge you. But we found out, just get him one-on-one and have a talk with him, see where he stands. Okay, if he challenges you, then the best man wins. And most of the time, the challenge would end up, he would still be your friend. I've seen guys go at it each other and stuff. And the brother would come up to me about a week later and say, guess what? Dude invited me over to his home to have dinner with him. I said, get out of here. And they're both from down south. One was from Georgia, the other one was from Mississippi. And neither one would back off, took anything from each other. But when they went at it, they became both best friends with each other. So it's like things go different ways for different people. And like I said, I was always leery of the little country boys, stuff, but they would always try to hang with me and my boys, want to go to parties with us and stuff. So the racism thing, it's a mental thing. It's real. It's real. It's a mental thing. But we have to deal with it. You dealt with it. But, we had recourse too. Things went too far. It's like, well, hey, let's go talk to the first sergeant, see if we can work this out. Because I'm not losing a strike over reacting to you and what you have said or done to me.
What has been your story, that time, that memorable moment that you said, this is precisely why I decided to serve and I am proud that I'm served?
There's a couple of moments when we were in Guam and we had been flying missions, etc. And I was, young and stuff, gung ho, all of this. But I didn't realize how important the job was that we were doing until I had gone home on leave after I had served a year in Guam and running bombing missions over Vietnam. And then I ran into one of my buddies that was in the Marine. He drove tanks and stuff. And he said, man, I remember when they used to tell us hold your position. They used to call us heavies. The heavies are getting ready to fly over and drop their payload. And they would see these B-52s go by, and they said they would almost be disappeared before they hear the bombs hitting the ground. But 7 days later, we would read in our Armed Forces newspaper, what our mission had done. And when we completed our mission in Guam, we came back and we got a certificate. Everybody in our squad, a certificate. And it was the first time in my life I received a piece of paper for something that I had done. But at that moment, I said, boy, my mama and daddy would be so proud. So that was my first moment. The second moment of pride is when I got my discharge papers and said, okay, you can go back home. You're done. I said, I'm done with this mess. And it says, yeah, unless you want to re-enlist. You re-enlist, we'll send you overseas. You're going to see the world. I said, no, that's what you told me when I joined this bad boy. But anyway, those are my two moments.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Joshua, I know you have a presentation for our viewers, and I would love to give the floor to you so that you could share this presentation with our viewers. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Hopefully no glitches. Here we go.
Joshua, Erwin, that was a beautiful presentation. It always touches my heart when I see vintage photos of our Black brothers and our Black sisters, that have served. So thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. I do have a question for you. There are a lot of people out there and they are interested in helping and being part of the cause and making sure that they are there to assist with some of our fallen vets. What are your what's the advice that you have for them if they want to participate in making sure that we are there, that we are giving a hand to those have only been there to serve and protect us?
Well, the best thing, if they have that passion, that desire to help, there are many, many organizations that they can reach out to that deal with veterans, fallen, wounded, disabled, homeless. And it's like, just go and reach out to one of them and see what you can do. Because all of us have our capacities as far as what we can do. And just do whatever, any little thing you do will contribute to the veterans. You know, some just need talking to, some need assistance and other services. You know, we have so many resources, you know, as far as services go. And, you know, just reach out and see what you can do, what part you can play. Because we all
Awesome.
have a part to play in some way.
Absolutely, and we are responsible. I truly feel that, especially just the small acknowledgement of talking. Like you said, some just need talking to. So I
Exactly.
agree. Yeah, I agree.
'Cause I've seen,
Well,
I've been in there going through airports, et cetera,
mhm.
and just sat down and had something to eat. And I've had someone across the room, you know, I didn't realize it, but when the waitress came, she said, you know, your meal has been paid for. And I didn't know who by. But there are people that do little things, and it really makes a vet feel good, just to that little acknowledgement. So, you know, in person, one-on-one contact with a veteran that's wounded or fallen, it's lonely, plays even a stronger role.
Mm, awesome. Thank you for that reminder. Thank you so much. Joshua Erwin, it's been a pleasure and privilege to talk to you. I appreciate your service. Thank you very much for your time, for being on this platform. We truly appreciate you. All right. You guys don't go anywhere because up next we have our guest speaker, and she goes by the name of Jewel Diamond Taylor. You don't want to miss this.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let us march on till victory is won.
All right, everyone, now is the time that we have our guest speaker. You may know her name. She is Jewel Diamond Taylor. She is so wonderful. I really have the privilege to talk with her, interview her. She is a national best-selling author, and she, of course, is a motivational success speaker. Everyone, please welcome our guest speaker, Jewel Diamond Taylor. Hello.
Thanks, LaCora. Thanks for this technology hookup.
I know, I know.
We're living in some interesting times, so we have to pivot.
Absolutely. There's always a pivot, always some unpacking as we move
Yes.
forward. And we are going to unpack the lives and the stories of our Black men and women that have served in the military, from those that are active to our veterans. It is Veterans Day, and we appreciate them. And we appreciate you for being our guest speaker. Could you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, I'm going to dedicate my time with everyone today to my father, who is in the military. He's since deceased. He's in the Arlington Cemetery. I was born in Washington, D.C., and my father was an entrepreneur. He owned a jewelry store. So that's how I got my name.
Oh, that is so, I always wondered that. I said,
Yeah.
is this a name that was given or, okay, beautiful.
Yes, that is. And so in my young adult life, as I got exposed to personal development information, a light came on and I realized there was a void of people of color speaking about setting your goals, coping skills, believing in yourself. And so I began in 1984, 85, on the platform speaking, and doors just began to open up, LaCora. I went from just being in California to international, invited to speak in London, Jamaica, the Bahamas, Brazil, Africa, Turks and Caicos, Virgin Islands. And what I really enjoyed on my journey, I have spoken to so many Blacks in government and invited to speak at the Pentagon, the FDIC, the US Mint, many military bases, Edwards Air Force Base, Fort Hood. So even though I have no military experience, I've been afforded the opportunity to sit with and listen to the stories of Blacks in government and in military. And I was just so impressed and so amazed that I had an opportunity to be exposed to the stories and the courageousness and the sacrifice and the professionalism, as well as the sexism and racism that many of them endured. And so it really broadened my capacity to serve. And this is what I love to do, is to inspire and encourage others in many walks of life. So I've authored several books. I've done lots of media. I do a lot of life coaching. And because of this pandemic, people have that disposable time now, and they're having some emotional challenges that they're seeing the need of a life coach or counselor such as myself, where I integrate spirituality with psychology. My education is in psychology. So I feel so fortunate to still be so on fire, LaCora, after all of these years, 35 years, still having people calling me, still feeling very passionate. And such a time as this, we need to tell the stories of our veterans. We need to tell the stories of resilience. We need to celebrate who we are as a people. There's so many unwritten stories, so many faceless people. We don't know their names, but they contributed to who we are in America today. We stand on their shoulders. And so I was so excited to be invited to be a part of this wonderful day to celebrate.
Let me tell you, this is a privilege for me. Do you hear me? To know that you have been to all of these different places, touching so many people. You know, Major Brenda Threatt earlier mentioned about faith and how it was imperative on her journey, you know, in the military. And so I just thank you for mentioning spirituality and how it plays a role. Why was it imperative, so important for you to say, you know what, I'm going to be on this panel. I will not miss it for anything.
Well, I am connected to Patricia Kelley, and Patricia Kelley and I fellowship at the same spiritual center. She's also part of my ministry, which is called Women on the Grow. And anytime Patricia asks me to do something, I'm like, yes, I'm there. So again, it's all about hookups, being connected to the right people, and knowing that this was such a worthy cause. And we need to shine a light on our heroes and sheroes. And so I, without hesitation, said, yes, what can I do? What can I share?
You know what? When you said our heroes and our sheroes, Dr. Maya Angelou, one of the all-time quotes for me is, how important is it for us to recognize and celebrate our heroes and sheroes? And we know Dr. Maya Angelou, she's a civil rights activist. She received the 2010 Presidential Medal of Freedom. And so I'm just so thankful that you mentioned that, because yes, they are heroes. They are sheroes. And right now, just as we found out about the Montfort Point Marines, we found out about 6888 with Miss Patricia. This is historic. You know, we as a people, history, it's in our DNA, not just Black history, but American history.
American history.
Yes.
Yes. I have an uncle in Mississippi that is 99 years old. And he was recently interviewed on ABC and CNN. And the reason I interviewed him, because he has his PhD, he was born on a plantation. He wanted to speak about the importance of activism and voting. He gets up every single day and wears a suit. He is in his right mind. He drives every day. And he's a part of our family history. He's a part of our American history. So there are the elders that will not be with us much longer, that have stories that are untold. So it's exciting today to be a part of celebrating those that are in active duty, as well as those that are veterans, to pay a tribute to them, to let them know we see them, that we appreciate them. It's, I know that people in service you don't have to thank me, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. Well, it's not about just thanking them, it's about honoring them and making sure that the history books are complete.
Yes.
And honest.
Yes.
And inclusive.
Yes. That part.
Yeah.
Listen, I know you have a presentation for our viewers. I'm going to have you take it away so that you could talk to our viewers and let us know, you're a motivational speaker. You're good at it. You are great at it. So you guys will be in for a treat. Trust and believe. So, Jewel Diamond Taylor, are you ready?
Yes, I am. I would like to say, I don't consider myself a motivational speaker because I'm really a stickler about words. And I found out as a mother, you can't motivate people to do anything they don't want to do. You can inspire people. And so I have evolved to call myself an inspirational speaker, because motivation has to come from within. But you can inspire people, you can give them information, you can empower them, you can open up the door, but people have to be self-motivated to make the changes in their lives. But thank you so much, LaCora. Thank you so much. Again, I just want to say, I do appreciate everyone for what you have done and what you continue to do for our land, for the people. Your sacrifice, your sense of duty, your sense of justice, your sense of professionalism will not be forgotten. I dedicate this to my father, who was in the Army, and his name was Robert Lewis Jr. And so I just pray that in heaven he sees his little girl today, a grown-up woman, who is still remembering him and knowing that I stand on his shoulders, as well as all of your shoulders. One of the things that is so important that I find when I'm talking to people that are role models, who absolutely love what they do, they're passionate about what they do, they're dedicated to what they do, they kind of shrink back. You don't have to say thank you, I just love doing it, or that's what I'm supposed to do. And I want to say, learn how to receive the gratitude of others. It's a gift to be able to say thank you to you. But what I want to say is, it is so important that you record your stories. Sit with your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. Sit with coworkers or sit with others that will listen to you. Call up your local radio station. Write a book. Tell your story. If you don't tell it, we'll never know. Never underestimate your years of service, resiliency, being courageous, performing, and defending. We acknowledge you for that, because you did it in spite of the glass ceiling. You did it in spite of the lack of dignity. You did it. You stood up, you performed, you traveled, you endured in spite of the sexism. And it's still happening today. And so the struggle continues, but yet we want to just stop today on Veterans Day and say, we salute you. We see you. I'm very African-centered minded person. And one of the things I learned when I traveled to South Africa a couple of years ago and I had a chance to speak there, was one of the things they say, instead of saying, I love you, they say, I see you. And I've taken that on because I think that's so beautiful. We all need to be seen. There's something in our humanity that says, I feel connected and I see you. I respect you. And to me, that's what this day is all about, that we're saying we see you, we respect you. Now, one thing that is so important for me as an author, as a woman, as a role model, as an inspirational speaker, as a life coach, as a counselor, as an ordained minister, one of the things that I find that is so key, and it wasn't part of our vocabulary when I was growing up, nor my mother's, nor my father's, but that phrase is self-care. It is so important that you integrate that into your lifestyle, that you make time for yourself, to refill your cup, to know that that's not a selfish act. Sometimes as role models, as servants, you're so wired, so busy doing and going that your health suffers. Your emotional health may suffer. Your mental health may suffer. Your relationships may suffer. And so please allow me just to speak that into your life today, that if you're experiencing any type of stress or challenges or denial about what's going on in your spirit, in your relationships, in your health, in your mind, in your relationships with others, denial is a dangerous place to be. And we all have issues sometimes that need to be addressed. And so I want to share with you an acronym that you've probably heard before, and it's HALT, which is another word for stop. And the acronym is H is for hungry, A is for angry, L is for lonely, and T is for tired. You want to stop, halt when you're hungry, stop when you're angry, stop when you're lonely, stop when you're tired. Because when we are in those emotional states, we tend to reach for the wrong things. We tend to react rather than respond. And there may be issues in your life, in your career, or in your personal life that you want to address. We don't want to be in denial, because sometimes we excel in our profession, but then our personal life suffers. Or we are great in our personal life, but our career suffers because we're not handling our emotions well. And so as an emotional resiliency educator, I just wanted to impart that to you, because I know being in the military, oh my gosh, you are so groomed to learn how to be a leader. You're groomed about teamwork. You're groomed about good work ethics and being self-directed. You have the opportunity to hone great technology skills because you have, it's all available to you. And because you have an opportunity to travel and experience different types of cultures, it teaches you cultural sensitivity. But there are those of us that still do not feel included. There are those that still feel like you're not seen. And it can play havoc with your emotional, mental, and spiritual health. So I would just want to impress upon you today, as you celebrate how far you have come and how much more you will do in your life, make sure that you incorporate good self-care. That is not selfish. It really isn't. It's going to make you a better performer. And let me speak to those of you that have been retired, thinking about being retired. Know that when your life changes, when you go into a new season, you have to be very mindful of what happens with the mind and the heart and the spirit when you lose a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning. So you want to make sure that you find ways to cultivate that drive in you, that drive to be of service, that drive to have meaning, that drive to wake up each day knowing that your living is not in vain. And I find that a lot of people that have retired struggle with that. And so that's just a seed that I wanted to plant in your mind today, to be proactive, because we're living longer than our ancestors. So we want to live with good health. We want to live with great purpose and great faith and great endurance and resiliency. We're living in an interesting time. There is an atmosphere that is emotionally charged with all types of emotions of racism and anger and division of this country. And so it is the military that we're counting on and giving thanks to for how you play your role in bringing unity and defending what we stand for. So in closing, I do want to salute you on this Veterans Day. I do want to close with my 3 points that you should remember and begin to focus on. And those 3 points are: remember your self-care. Second, I didn't talk about it much, but being connected to like-minded people, people that share your experiences, is very healthy for your state of mind. Stay connected. Stay connected, because being a part of an organization or tribe, anything that is going to keep you buoyant and keep you focused and keep you feeling like when you have those down moments, is so important. The third thing is to always focus on what is my meaning and what is my purpose. Have a reason to get up. Know that service goes beyond our self-care. It goes out to others. Where can you find a need and fill it? There is a young lady in my Women on the Grow ministry who is retired from the military, and she's very, very active here in Southern California, helping the homeless women that are veterans. And so that has helped her with her PTSD. It has helped her have a reason to get up every day. And I'm so very proud of her. And I recognize that whether you're in the military or not, we all need to feel like we're part of the solution and not a part of the problem. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful day of celebration and tribute to our veterans.
I love it. That was wonderful. And thank you for giving us actual strategies to help combat, different things that we may be experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, as she mentioned, this is to inspire you. I know we can't motivate you to do anything, but I hope our guest speaker, Jewel Diamond Taylor, has inspired you to activate whatever it is that you feel has been dormant within, but to activate and use those strategies to make sure, find your tribe, right, Jewel? Find your tribe. And I think that goes across the board, whether you have served, whether you have someone in the military in your family, and whether you have retired. We do appreciate you. We salute you. And Jewel, I really appreciate you and I salute you. So thank you so much, Dean, for being on this platform. Thank you again for giving us your yes.
It was an honor. Thank you.
And that concludes our very special presentation put on by the NAACP Beverly Hills Hollywood chapter and the National Association of Black Military Women. We want to thank the team that made this possible. We have Latia Suttle as well as Keisha Dixon. Thank you. Without them, this would not have happened. We also want to thank our viewers. Thank you very much for tuning in. And of course, we must thank our panelists. Thank you so much, Patricia, Jackson-Kelley, for your time, Major Brenda Threatt, for the time you were given on today, as well as Joshua Erwin. Such great stories, you guys. Thank you very much. And we salute you. Thank you for your service. And of course, our guest speaker of the day, Jewel Diamond Taylor. Thank you very much for the strategies that the steps that you've given us to help, whether it be ourselves, the viewers, or family members and friends. So thank you very much. You guys, if any of this has motivated you, we ask that you donate to any of the causes. Donate to the National Association of Black Military Women, or the NAACP Beverly Hills Hollywood chapter, or any of the organizations mentioned. Again, I'm your host, LaCora Stevens, and I thank you for watching. Be blessed.